Well, Travis, thank you for jumping on today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I just want to give a brief introduction to you. So for those who don't know who Travis is, he is a mental performance coach, and he currently works with the U.S. soccer men's national team in leadership and team dynamics. So I'll let him kind of go into that. He also does a lot of work in improv and kind of incorporating that into mental performance. And he's the author of a book, Live, Yes, and. So I'll let him, again, go into more detail. But he has experience working with professional teams and athletes, collegiate, both on an individual and team basis. So excited to kind of dive into some of that. So Travis, thank you so much for jumping on today.
Oh, my pleasure. Really happy to be here.
It would be great if you don't mind, for those who maybe aren't familiar with mental performance or sports psychology or conditioning, if you could kind of dive into some of the work that you're doing and what that is for you, what that means.
Yeah, so that's great. So I consider myself a performance coach, and that just that word performance, I think, is an umbrella that covers a lot of different areas. And so for me, I focus on, like you mentioned, a few different specific areas: mindset, team dynamics, and overall culture. And so I do not have a sports psych degree. I do teach mental skills, but I'm not a sports psychologist. I've been a certified coach as far as a life coach, performance coach, executive coaching for about 15 years now. And then beyond that, 20 plus years, I was an improvisational actor and comedian. Actually, I still am, but I got into it, 20 plus years ago after going through my own sort of, sports career as far as being an athlete growing up and then playing soccer in college and getting into coaching at the high school and collegiate level before I found improvisation. And then improvisation was sort of a game changer for me. And I looked at the principles of improvisation and saw how they directly applied to every aspect of my life, from my marriage to working in a corporate environment, and then being an athlete and being a part of a team.
Yeah.
So I didn't know at the time that I was going to turn it into a career over the next 20 years, but my passion for it kind of increased and developed over the years. And so I've been able to kind of just carve a little lane for myself in the performance coaching world to be probably one of the few performance coaches out there that uses the principles of improvisation to help athletes and to help people in general with mindset, with team dynamics, and how that applies to their overall performance.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I want to get a bit of insight into several parts of this journey, but from you being a collegiate athlete, what did that look like kind of moving into a career? How did improv become a part of your life? And then also bringing improv into performance, how did that come into play? Did you always see that as something correlating? And when did that happen? How did that happen?
Yeah, so as an athlete, so again, I played soccer at the collegiate level, Division III. I really never had aspirations that I'm going to take it beyond college, but just love the sport. And then when I got into coaching, I really enjoyed coaching. I was probably a better coach than I was a player. You sometimes need to get a few years beyond your playing days before unfortunately, you start to notice some of the blind spots that you probably had as an athlete. And a lot of those were exposed to me. And I got to really see, to be honest, I got to see really what a mentally soft or weak athlete I was, and how some of that had to do with how I was raised. Some of that had to do with coaching. But most of it I took full responsibility for, is just my own inability to get over some mental obstacles. And so as I got into coaching more, that became a really important focus for me, because I wanted to help athletes not experience the same struggles that I had. And so right away as a coach, working with high school players, I felt like I was equipped to help some of these players because I could relate to some of the weaknesses they were struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to me getting into improvisation. I didn't get into improvisation with thinking there was any link to sports or any link to anything outside of performing and comedy. I loved comedy growing up. And once I started to take a few classes in this training center, I fell in love with the mindset and the principles that made improvisation possible on stage. But then immediately light bulbs started going off, because I could see the congruence to different aspects of life, from, how these same principles applied in a corporate environment and how they applied to my marriage. And then being still, in love with sports, I could start to see how, wow, we could really translate these ideas into a sports environment, because this is what team and relationship is all about.
Mhm.
And so as sort of the years went on and I started to commit myself to personal development and speaking and coaching and training, I sort of found a way to test those principles in real life scenarios. And then once I was working at IMG Academy as a leadership coach for about 2.5 years and had some autonomy to to use sort of my approach to things with athletes, and to see their efficacy and to see their effectiveness, I thought, you know what, I think I'm onto something here. And so when I went on my own about 6 years ago, it was to kind of be this performance coach, but with this interesting niche of using improvisation.